What if I told you you could run n8n completely for free for an entire year without paying a single penny? That's right, no monthly subscription, no usage limit, and full control over your automation workflows. Azure gives you 12 months of free hosting to get started. I am Asif from AI Agency Plus. We help small businesses grow using AI and automation. Before we dive in, let's quickly cover what you need to follow along. First, you would need a Microsoft account. Second, you will need a mobile number handy for verification. And third, you need a credit or debit card. This is for verification purposes and you will not be charged during the free period. If you've never used Azure before, Microsoft offers a 12-month free tier where you can run a Linux VM with 1 GB of RAM and 1 CPU core completely free for an entire year. After that year, you will start getting charged, but for now, we're getting full year of free n8n hosting. This VM is pretty thin on resources, but it's a solid starting point for learning and building your first automation. As you start creating more complex workflow, adding more automations, you can always upgrade to higher tier. Here you see you get 750 hours of compute, that's almost 31 days in a month with the free tier. Let's get started by signing up for Microsoft Azure. To sign up, just go to Google and search for Microsoft Azure. Click on the first organic result and here you will see a bit more detail on what you can do with Azure and whatnot. So just click on get started with Azure and you will get the pricing page where it gives you details on what you can get with Microsoft Azure. When you create your Azure account, you get 200 USD in free credits to use during your first 30 days. Now you could use this credit to try out any Azure services you want. You can spin up multiple VMs, test databases, experiment with AI services. But here's the thing. In this tutorial, we're going to focus on 12-month free tier VM so we can run our n8n instance completely free for an entire year. We're not touching those 200 USD credits, which means you can save them for other project or testing. To get started, click on Try Azure for free. You will be prompted to enter your details. Microsoft will ask you for your country, your name, mobile number for verification, and then your credit or debit card information. Go ahead, fill in all those details carefully. Once you've completed your sign up and verification process, you would land right here on portal.azure.com. This is the main Azure dashboard. Think of it as the command center for Azure, where you can access all the services, manage your resources, monitor everything that's running. This is where we'll be spending our time today, setting up the VM that will host our self-hosted n8n instance. Let's start by creating our virtual machine that will host our n8n instance. Here we are on Azure Portal. If you don't see virtual machine icon here, just search for virtual machine on the search bar on the top and you will land on the same blade. Here we are on compute infrastructure virtual machine blade. This is where we will be creating a new virtual machine. Just click on create and click on virtual machines. This is virtual machine build page where we will be entering all the details of a virtual machine. Subscription should already be selected for you. Next up is resource group. Think of resource group as a container which holds all the related resources together. So when we're creating a VM, this resource group that we will create will hold the virtual machine, its disks, IPs, and networking and everything related to this virtual machine will be in this resource group. Here we'll just click on create new and I'm going to name this resource group as RG for resource group -n8n. So you can name it whatever makes sense to you. And the next up is virtual machine name. This is the name of the virtual machine. I'm going to name the virtual machine as n8n VM. Region, you can choose the region that's closest to you. So I am going to choose UK South. Next options is availability group. For free tier, we have to select no infrastructure redundancy needed. If you choose any other option, you will be charged. Security type, I am going to select standard. For image, this is the OS of your virtual machine. I'm going to select Ubuntu 24.4. This is the latest version. VM architecture, I'm going to leave that as x64. Size, this is critical. This is where you have to pay extra attention. Just click on all sizes. Here change the grouping to no grouping and click on cost per month. This will sort the VM based on the cost. Here we see B1S. I'm going to use B1S, which is the free tier eligible VM where we can run it 12 months for free. So just click select. Next is authentication type. You can either select SSH public key or password. I'm going to select password. Username for my VM is going to be n8n VM user 01, and I've put in a secure password for that. Inbound port rules, SSH is selected by default. I'm going to select HTTP and HTTPS. Click next. That will take you to the disk configuration. Here the OS disk type is 30 gig. I'm going to leave that as default. OS disk type, this is important. Premium SSD is not included in the free tier, so I'm going to select standard SSD. Here I'm going to leave that tick on where the disk will get deleted if I do select the VM to be deleted. Key management, I'm going to leave that as default as the platform managed key. If you have specific requirement, you can manage your own keys. We're done with the disk configuration. Let's go to networking. Here for the network, Microsoft has already created virtual network and subnet for us. We have to create a new public IP address. So just click on create new. I'm going to name my IP as n8n VMIP. The SKU for it by default is selected standard. I'm going to change that to basic and dynamic because you do get charged if you're using a static IP. I believe it's roughly about $3 to $4 if you're using static IP. So we want our n8n instance to run completely free. So I'm going to use dynamic IP. One caveat of that is if your VM do restart, your IP address will change. So you have to change your DNS, which we're going to cover further down in the tutorial. So just press OK. Next, for the NIC network security group, we're going to leave that as default basic. Public inbound, we've selected this previously. We're going to leave that as is. So we are allowing HTTP 80, 443 and SSH 22. I believe everything else can be the same. We don't have to do any more changes now. Just click on management. We're going to leave everything as default in here. No changes required. If you do want to enable backups, you can do that. I might cover backups in a different video. Click next. For monitoring, again, we are not going to make any changes. Click next. Advanced, again, no changes. We're not going to add any tags. Just click on review and create. Here, review all your VM settings. Make sure that you have configured everything that way you wanted and meet your requirements. Once everything is good, just click on create and that will create a new VM. This will take about a minute to 2 minutes for it to complete. You can see that it is deploying. I will come back once the deployment is complete. And there you go, our VM deployment is complete. That took just over a minute. Now the next step is to get a dynamic IP address that's been assigned to our VM, and then we'll set up a DNS record so we can access our n8n through a proper domain using SSL instead of just an IP address. Here's the good news. You can create a subdomain like n8n.yourdomain.com without affecting your existing website at all. This will be completely separate, so your main website stays untouched. Now let's get the dynamic IP address that's been assigned to our VM. So just click on the icon in here and go to virtual machines. So here you see that this is the virtual machine that we created. Just click in. Right here on the side, you can see our public IP address. Make a note of it. We're going to need this in a moment to set up our DNS record. Next, I'm going to log into my domain register where I manage my domain. I'm going to be using GoDaddy for my domain, which is aiagencyplus.co.uk, which redirects to my main.com domain. For this n8n installation, I'm going to create a separate subdomain, and that would not interfere with the redirect at all. Here I'm logged into my GoDaddy account. You see that's my domain. Just click on the DNS tab and then click on add a new record. Here I'll be adding a record. Here's the subdomain name. It's going to be Azure n8n.aiagencyplus.co.uk, and the value is where we'll be putting the IP address that we copied from our Google console. Here's the IP address. Once you've entered all the details, just click on save and your subdomain will be created. If you're using Cloudflare for your DNS management, there's one critical step that you have to remember. When you create a record, make sure that you turn the proxy off. If you leave the proxy enabled, it will cause issues with n8n webhooks and connection, so make sure that the proxy is set off. If you don't have a domain yet, you can get something really cheap for like $2 or $3. You can go for a domain like .biz or .xyz from Namecheap or GoDaddy. I'm assuming you already have a domain that you can use, but just in case if you don't, just pause this video and then go in and buy a domain. Once you've set up your DNS record in GoDaddy, you'll have to wait for DNS propagation to complete. For GoDaddy, it's typically about 10 to 15 minutes. That is pretty fast for propagation, but it depends on your domain provider, location, and caching. It can take up to an hour or even a day. So Namecheap, I've noticed that it does take a day for the DNS propagation to complete. So if you're using Namecheap, you have to be a bit patient. It might take a day for the DNS propagation to complete. You can check the status of your DNS propagation by going to website like What's My DNS. Just go to Google and just search for DNS propagation and you would see What's My DNS pop up as a first organic result. Just enter your subdomain, in my case Azure n8n.aiagencyplus, and show you if the DNS has been propagated across the world. Once you see that the Azure IP address is showing up in most of the locations, you're good to go. For now, we'll give it about 15-20 minutes for the DNS propagation to complete. Perfect, our DNS propagation is complete. It took about 15 minutes, and as you can see, we are getting green ticks across all the locations. Now, before we dive into the technical commands, I want to make this as easy as possible for you to follow along. I will create a dedicated blog post on my website with all the commands we will be using in this tutorial. You'll be able to find the link in the description below. That way you can easily copy and paste the commands instead of trying to type them out while watching the video. It will save you a lot of time and hassle, so go ahead, open that blog post in another tab and let's follow along. If you're finding this tutorial helpful, hit the like button and subscribe. It really helps get this tutorial in front of more people who need it, and drop a comment below. Let me know what's the first automation you're planning to build with your n8n. I do read all the comments that's been posted on my videos and I do reply back. Now we are going to SSH into the VM using PuTTY. If you're on a Mac or Linux, you can use your terminal and the built-in SSH commands. I'll walk you through the PuTTY method for Windows users, but the commands that we will be running inside the VM are exactly same regardless of how you connect. Now, if you don't already have PuTTY installed on your Windows machine, don't worry, it's quick and easy. Just open your browser and just search for download PuTTY. So here's the official website. You can download the 64-bit install package, or you can just download the exe. Once you've downloaded PuTTY, just open the PuTTY and put in the IP address of your VM and then just click on open. First time you try to connect onto your VM, it will come up with an alert. Just accept, and here we will put in the username and password that we set when we created our VM. I've just entered my username and password. Let's just press enter, and now we are connected to our Azure VM. Let's get started with the configuration. We'll start by first updating the system, then we will install all the prereqs, and finally we'll install Docker to self-host our n8n instance. Remember, all these commands are on my blog post. Link is in the description. Just copy and paste them to save time. The first command that we're going to enter is to update our system. This command, sudo apt-get update and upgrade, will fetch the latest package list and then it'll update all installed software. Just press enter. This will take a little bit of time because it's going to fetch all the repositories and all the packages, and then it will download and it will install all the updates. All the updates have been installed. Next, we're going to install the prereqs. This command will install the tools to secure the downloads, and it will also install nano text editor that we'll be using to create and edit files. Next, we will be setting up Docker repository. This command will create a secure directory for our Docker signing keys. This command that I've just entered downloads Docker GPG key for package validation to ensure that the Docker files that we're getting is from an authenticated source. This command sets proper read permissions on the key file, and this is a long one. It adds Docker official repository to the system. And finally, this command installs Docker engine, CLI tools, Docker Compose, and everything that's needed for Docker functionality. This might take about a minute to complete. It's still installing. Amazing, the Docker install is complete. We can run this command sudo docker version to check that the Docker installed and the version that we have installed. This command make dir n8n-compose will create a directory called n8n-compose, and cd will navigate to that directory. Next, we will create .env file. This is where we will be storing all our environment variables. This opens the text editor where we can create our .env configuration file. So here's the .env file that I'll be using. I'll add this file to the blog. You can copy that and paste. Just make sure that you change the details where the domain name will be your domain name, subdomain is the subdomain that you created, and time zone is your time zone. To save the file, just press Ctrl O and enter, and then Ctrl X to exit. Now we are out of the nano editor. Next, we'll be creating a local file where all the n8n files will be stored. So this is mkdir local-files. This will create a new directory, and you can run ls-a to list the directories. Next, we will be creating a Docker Compose YAML file. Here's the command nano docker-compose-YAML. This will take us to the nano editor again. Here's the full Docker Compose configuration file. You can copy this from the blog post. It will install n8n with the environment variables that we've defined before, and it'll have the persistent storage for all your work and the certificates. Here, I'm going to paste the YAML file. You don't have to make any changes. You can just copy and paste as it is, because we've already configured our env file with all the environment variables. Once you've copied the file, press Ctrl O and enter to save, and then Ctrl X to exit. Now we have all the configuration in place. The next command that we're going to run is sudo docker compose up with a -d, which is in a detached mode. This command that we've entered tells the Docker to launch everything based on the docker compose.yaml file. That includes n8n and traffic, which is used for SSL and reverse proxy. Installation is complete. Now we can run sudo docker compose ps to check and ensure that both our Docker and traffic instance is up and running. Let's launch a browser and browse to Azure n8n.aiagencyplus.co.uk, and hopefully we will see n8n setup page. We see the n8n setup page. I'm going to enter all the details to set up my account. I've entered my details to create an owner account. I'm just going to press next. Here it's going to ask us for some details. You can choose any details in here and click on get started. So here you get some premium features for free. If you enter your emails, I'm going to click on send me a free license key. And here we are. We have successfully deployed n8n on Azure, and here's our n8n instance. I can see that we are 0 versions behind. Keeping your n8n up to date is crucial for security and new features. Here's how you can update your n8n in simple steps. I'll quickly go through it so you can keep your n8n instance up to date all the time. Here I am back on the console of our VM. Before you perform any n8n updates, first I would recommend you update your Ubuntu system. This ensures all the dependencies and security patches are installed. And to update, this is the same command that we've entered when we initially created our VM. It is sudo apt-get update and upgrade. Just run this command and this will make sure your Ubuntu VM is up to date. The next command that you're going to run to update your n8n instance is cd n8n compose. This is where you're navigating into your n8n compose directory where all the n8n files resides. Next, enter the command sudo docker compose pull. This downloads the latest version of n8n and traffic. It's because we have the latest version, it's not going to pull anything, but if your versions are behind, it will pull the latest version of n8n. The last step in the process is to stop all containers and start new ones with the updated image. Your data stays safe in the Docker volumes. This is the command that you will enter to stop your Docker and then restart it with the latest image. Updates takes up to 30 seconds. Your workflow, credentials and settings are preserved. Pro tip, before you update your n8n to the latest version, make sure you export your workflows from n8n as a backup, just to make sure if something goes wrong, you've not lost all your automations and workflows. And that is it. Here you have it, a fully functional self-hosted n8n instance running on Microsoft Azure completely for free for 12 months with automatic HTTPS. If you found this tutorial helpful, hit the like button and subscribe. It really helps get this tutorial in front of more people who need it. And I would love to hear from you in the comments. Let me know what topic you would like to see next. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Happy automating.